welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to another opposition view show where we are looking ahead to the next game. We're back at Goodison against Manchester United, and to look ahead to this weekend's game, I'm absolutely buzzing to welcome back Jay Motty, a familiar face from the FullTimeDEVILS YouTube channel, and of course on the Red Flag Flying High as well. Jay is back for a second show of the season, and if this is half as good as the first, we are in for a belter of a show. So a very warm welcome back to the Toffee Blues, Jay. How are you doing?
Doing all right, yeah. I've been all right lately. Manchester United at the time of recording. We had a good result against Watford. Away at Bruges was okay. Wasn't the greatest result, but wasn't too bad. It was half our team was reserves. And we had a good result at Chelsea as well. So things are looking up since the winter break.
Certainly. Of course, we'll get on to that with the questions. We always start with recent form. And like you say, you've picked up a lot of late. You're sitting fifth in the table after that comprehensive win against Watford. What have you made of the recent surge up the table? And is there any reason for that recent improvement?
I think one of the main reasons actually might just be some players getting a bit of rest that they needed. I think if you look at some of our players who had been playing quite well earlier in the season, they tailed off a bit. Players like Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Dan James, although I don't think he's particularly returned to form. Andy Martial looks a little bit tired, a little bit jaded before the winter break. He's come back firing on all cylinders. So I think that just having those 2 weeks or whatever it was, 12 days, whatever, has really helped some of the players, just not necessarily just physically, but just mentally as well. It is draining just to sort of recharge the batteries, giving Ollie a chance to work on some new things as well. But the overriding reason, more than anything, has got to be Bruno Fernandes. He's come into the team. He's hit the ground running. He was good against Wolves in his debut. And since then, we've just seen him getting better and better. And he's began to make us tick. He's filled that Pogba-shaped hole in our midfield that we've got.
Well, that was going to be my next question, was about Bruno Fernandes. You've signed for 45 million from Sporting Lisbon in January. He's had a very bright start. How much of a part, what impact has he had on the team? How come he's played such a key role in the upturn in form?
I think he's exactly what we've needed in midfield. We need someone who doesn't just get hold of the ball, but does things with it, can play it long, play it short, likes to sort of have a dig as well, have a shot from distance and can hit the target, unlike some of our other midfielders. But more importantly, I think he's one of those players that sort of raises the levels of those around him. If you know what I mean, he's always encouraging players to make runs. He gives players that confidence that when he's on the ball, you're going to make that run and think you're going to get a decent pass at the end of it. I mentioned Martial earlier, and I think one of the reasons he's suffered of late is with the injuries we've got and so many players out, he's just not been getting the service. And he's, maybe getting one or half a chance each game. And if he doesn't convert that, he's getting a lot of stick. Where now he's getting a little bit more service. He's getting the balls played that he likes, and he's thriving off it. And it's the same with some of our other players as well. And now, I said this on, we were doing a preview for FullTimeDEVILS the other day, and I mentioned that all of a sudden now we've got options by the signing of Fernandes and the fact that McTominay is coming back as well. He came off the bench the other day. We've gone from being completely sort of threadbare in midfield, relying on the likes of Pereira and Lingard, who are just completely off the pace, to having options, to having different choices with the likes of Matic, Fred, McTominay, and now Fernandes. So yeah, it adds that positivity as well when you've got a player that the crowd likes to see, that makes things tick, that gives you that bit of belief. It just raises everyone's game and raises the mood around the club as well. And he's had a really good impact so far. I'm not going to get carried away and say this is it, we've cracked it, because obviously he's only played a few games. There's a long way left to go in the season, but so far so good.
Like you say, there is a long way left to go in the season, and both of our sides are still sort of in that hunt for a European place. It mustn't be lost on you guys that Man City's potential European ban means fifth could get in the Champions League. United are sitting in fifth at the moment. Is it a real opportunity maybe for United to thrive at the expense of the noisy neighbours?
Listen, I love that to happen, I'm not going to lie, but I don't think it will. I think there's so many ifs and buts and so much doubt around it. And from people I speak to in Manchester who are close to Manchester City in terms of they cover it, they report on it, they say that everyone around City, in terms of like the management and the people that work there, are completely confident that this ban is going to get overturned. And there's talk that even if it doesn't, it may take a while for it all to be sorted. So it's unlikely that next season the ban will come into effect anyway. So there's too many caveats there for me to start saying, oh, fifth place is going to get us into Champions League at the expense of Manchester City. I just don't see it happening, to be honest with you. And I think we need to be aiming for top 4 no matter what.
Well, I think I was going to say, fourth still will. Will you be able to overhaul Chelsea in time for the end of the season? I mean, like you say, you're on a good run of form. Chelsea may be a bit more inconsistent. There's still a chance.
Yeah, I mean, Chelsea have been inconsistent all season. I think they've lost 9 games or something in the league. I might be wrong there, but I think they have lost about 9. And some of the losses they've had to the likes of Bournemouth and West Ham and teams like that, similar to ourselves, show that there is that inconsistency there. And I think they had a bit of a purple patch after the first few weeks under Frank, where everyone was impressed with the players he brought in, the fact that Abrahams and Mount and all these youngsters were doing so well. But it's catching up with them a little bit. And for some of the players I've mentioned, it's like there is a lot of more expectation than they're used to. You know, I know Abraham's been at Swansea in the Premier League before, but that's different to being the main striker at Chelsea. I know he's been injured recently. So there is more expectation. There's expectation on the manager. And I think the fact that he did so well for a period has made people around Chelsea think, right, top 4, we've got to get it, or we should get it. And he's been struggling slightly since the winter break. Obviously, we beat them. They've had a bad result in Europe as well. And I think you look at it from a United point of view, and you think we can do this, we can get there. And I think this season, I think top 4 is up for grabs more than it is most seasons. I think I said this last time I spoke to you, because okay, the top 2 in Liverpool and City is sort of nailed on. Probably third as well with Leicester. I think they're more than likely to end up there. But how often do you see it where 4th is up for grabs, because so many teams that are usually fighting for that place are off the pace? Arsenal haven't been the same. Spurs haven't been the same. United haven't been the same. Chelsea haven't been the same. So yourself, Everton, you can look at it and think, we've got a chance. And certainly as a Manchester United fan, I think we've got a chance.
Then you say that, but I think we blew our chance on Sunday. I think Arsenal beating us has really finished it off for the top 4. I think Europa League place is still very doable, but I think we really needed to win at Arsenal to be in the race for the top 4.
I mean, yeah, you know your team and your chances much better than I do, but there might be another twist in his tail. There's so many times that clubs just don't seem to want the top 4 that you never know. But in terms of Manchester United, I think the way the season's panned out, the fact that now we're getting players returning from injury, Bruno Fernandes has come in and is doing a good job. We look solid at the back. I think we've had second most amount of clean sheets in Europe, which is just an amazing stat to me, because I didn't even think we were that solid anyway, and apparently we have. So we're beginning to put a bit of a run there in terms of how many clean sheets we're getting. De Gea's look like the De Gea of old, which he's been a worry for me. I think I mentioned that to you last time. So yeah. There are reasons why you can think, top 4 could happen for us, and really it should do. I don't care how many players we've let go, and the fact that Ollie's in his first full season. Manchester United should always be aiming for top 4 at a minimum, and this season's no different.
Yeah, I think that's the issue. I think with a lot of our fans, I think the expectation levels have really gone up for an obvious reason. I think, of course, we discussed the manager situation when we were last on. United, like you say, have stuck by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer despite a bit of a rocky spell. Meanwhile, a week after we last spoke, Everton ended up appointing Ancelotti. What have you made of Carlo's appointment at Everton and the impact maybe that he's had on Everton from an outside perspective so far?
Well, I was one of those people that wasn't surprised by it, because I think, I'm not just saying this because I'm on an Everton podcast. Everton is historically a big club. You've got resources, you spend money, you back managers. So when you look at Ancelotti and his record, you think, he's going from Napoli to Everton a step down. I don't think it is. I don't think it is at all. So it didn't surprise me. Obviously, you've had to pay him a large salary, which is to be expected. But he's the sort of manager that I think sometimes, and forgive me if I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can be at a club like Everton or a team like Everton, you can think, 6th or 7th isn't too bad. But he's not going to think like that. He's going to come in and he's going to be thinking, I'm here to get us into the Champions League. I want to play in Champions League. I want my players to be playing at a higher level. And he motivates everyone. He raises the levels around you. And I think he's done that. And I think, you've had a good run. Obviously, the result at the Emirates was disappointing. As you pointed out, that probably makes it very difficult for you to get top 4. Not impossible, but difficult. And I think it's that mentality shift as well, isn't it? When you get someone who's just demanding more. And I think he's done that. And listen, tactically, there's few managers better than him in world football.
So agree on that.
Yeah, you're going to get that. You're going to get sort of double-edged sword. You're going to get him. So you're going to get two sides to him. You're going to get the part that's demanding more from the players, and you're going to get the part as well that's got the ability to get more from players tactically.
Well, that's certainly I think we were talking about the mentality shift that you're on about. I think there needs to be more of that from us, because I think it was, of course, a club great of your own. Gary Neville came out and said that he was basically ripping into Everton because we choke away from home against the Big Six. We haven't, of course, United, we haven't beat you guys there since 2013 at Old Trafford. We haven't beaten Liverpool at Anfield since 99. We haven't beaten Arsenal since 96 or 95. So it's a wretched away record against the top six sides that we've got, and it needs to change if we're going to make the step up. And that will be the difference, I think. If we started winning even 2 or 3 of those 6 games a season, it could be the difference between top 6 and top 4.
It's really strange because you look at the players Everton have got, the positions you finished in the league. You know, the Emirates isn't a fortress by any stretch of the imagination. Old Trafford isn't a fortress. You know, to not win at Old Trafford for 7 years isn't the end of the world. It's not that bad. But you should be getting better results in the derby, I think, if I'm being honest with you. You look at the derby results between Manchester City and Manchester United. We've had times when United won the Champions League and the league, and that season City beat us home and away. You know, we've beaten City. You know, City absolutely walked the league. They finished 19 points above us, and we beat them at the Etihad. So you'd think over the course of 21 years you would have got a result at Anfield. You think you'd have got better results at the top 6. So you're right, I agree with that. And I think, you know, you're not a club that's right at the bottom of the Premier League. You're a club that's finishing in the top half or in and around the Europa League places. So to not be able to beat the top 6 teams away from home is pretty surprising. And as you pointed out, it's not good enough. It's not good enough.
It's absolutely a mental block. And I think a lot of our fans gave a bit of stick to Gary Neville for what he said, but I thought he was personally spot on. It needs to change. If we're going to make the step up to the level we want to be at, then we've got to start winning them kinds of games. And I think that was the interesting thing. When we were actually awful in the 90s, we actually won a fair few of those games. I think it was just the type of players we had, those sort of no-nonsense. It was a very, very ugly sort of side that we had back then, and it didn't take any prisoners with even the best sides. And I think we got a couple of results, whereas I think we've maybe lost a bit of that steel over the last couple of years, and we need to really get that back if we're to become basically make Goodison a fortress. I mean, it's generally one of the better. We've got a good home record there, but we need to go away and try and perform the same now. And if we do, I think we can make the step up, but it's a big ask.
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, you know, the top 4 is up for grabs, or 4th spot is up for grabs, because so many of the so-called top teams, the Big 6 teams, aren't performing consistently. So there's absolutely no reason why teams like Everton and other teams around you can't get results. And maybe it is, as yourself and as Gary Neville's pointed out, just that little bit of a psychological block, the way you're going into games sort of half expecting to lose. And when you have that attitude, you're always going to struggle.
I think it's always, I think, obviously, the more we don't win these games, the more these kind of records are held over our heads. Of course, the derby's the big one in that respect. But, of course, Chelsea and Arsenal, City, Spurs, United, all those games, like I think United's the most recent away win we've had against any of them, and that was 7 years ago. So it's absolutely disgusting when you look at it, and we have to change that.
I think you got that win as well because you know the manager was then for us, don't you?
Well, exactly. I mean, he writes his own scripts, that man.
He does, yeah, he does, certainly. But I remember it was a Delafeu one, wasn't it? Was it Delafeu who scored for you, I think?
Oviedo, I don't think he ever scored for us again.
Oh, was it Oviedo? Sorry, I get mixed up. Yeah, I remember that game because he broke a lot of records that season for us, David Moyes. Not good ones either.
Exactly.
I think yourself, Swansea, Newcastle, I think it was like 40 years since Swansea beaten us, 50 years since Newcastle beat us at home. So God knows how many years since Everton had beaten us, and all those records went out the window in about 7 months.
Well, that was it. I think we talk about those kind of sides. I think that's what really irritates me about some of these records is that you see the likes of Crystal Palace going to Arsenal and getting a win every now and then. The sides with far less quality in this league than we've got, who are capable of going to these grounds and getting a win, even if it is every 5 years, 10 years or so. It's still a better record than we've got at these grounds, and it's an absolute disgrace to think that a side pushing to try and break into that elite group is incapable of doing that. That's why we're not breaking into it, is because we can't get these kind of results. It needs to change.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace beat us at Old Trafford this season. Burnley have beaten us at Old Trafford this season. I mean, our home record, by and large, is pretty good. But, you know, we're not unbeatable by any stretch of the imagination. And our Burnley or our Crystal Palace are far better side than Everton. No, of course they're not. So, these teams, like you said, are capable of getting results where they've got perhaps a squad that isn't as strong as yours. So you have to ask yourself why, and especially when you look at, as I've said before, the quality of some of the big six. It's not, these aren't unbeatable teams. Every team has its weaknesses, especially the likes of ourselves, Chelsea, Arsenal. So over the course of at least 2 or 3 seasons, well, not even the course of 2 or 3 seasons, at least the course of 1 or 2 seasons, you should be getting at least one result away from home against the big six. So yeah, that's something that if you could improve that, and if Ancelotti certainly seems like the man who could, then it's one of those games as well, one of those sort of results. If you get a result, say you go away to Liverpool and you win, you take that with you, don't you? You sort of take that confidence with you moving forward as well. It gives you a bit of a buzz where, going away to somewhere like, I don't know, no disrespect to them, but Norwich, you're getting a result there isn't going to give you the same feeling and give you the same sort of after effects.
Well, that's it. I mean, our away records was absolutely wretched anyway, regardless of who we were playing, because until Ancelotti come in, I think we've only won one away game all season. So that tells you all you need to know about how bad we are away from home. But obviously, we're at home this weekend. We're going to see what happens against United, and then we travel to Chelsea the week after. And I think we've just blown it against Arsenal. That's another chance to maybe end a bad record, and we need to do better. I think it's going to be an interesting watch, the Chelsea game, and how we go into that all depends on this game. And of course, we could do you guys a favour if we got that win as well.
Well, you never know. I mean, I know it's like you said, you feel like the Arsenal game sort of ended any chance of top four, but you beat us. I hope you don't, obviously, but you beat us, you beat Chelsea, then that's obviously going to give you a massive lift, and who knows what can happen. But I think from our point of view, yes, it'd be great if you can get a result at Chelsea, but we just got to focus on Goodison. I know it's going to be difficult. It's like you mentioned there, your home record is good. You've got a decent record against us as well. You got a draw against us at Old Trafford when we were actually on the back of 2 very good results. We'd beaten Spurs and we'd beaten City away. And going into the Everton game, I probably had a little bit of arrogance going into it for the first time in months, because I was like, you know what, we're on a high.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and you had Duncan Ferguson as caretaker manager, which was sort of an unknown entity. And you got a result, and it was difficult to take that because it sort of knocked the wind out of ourselves and stopped that momentum that we'd built by beating Spurs and City. So yeah, you could get some momentum going here. I just hope that we can go to Goodison and turn up, because we've been turning up recently, and that's the main thing. I think too often this season for Manchester United, we've not lost because we've been unlucky or it's been a close game and we just haven't had that edge, or the goalkeeper's had a worldie or whatever. We've lost because in too many games we just haven't turned up. Look at our record against so-called lesser teams. It's pretty horrendous, and the reason for that is because I think sometimes, pains me to say it, they've just wanted it a little bit more.
Yeah, that really infuriates me if I ever see Everton do that. And unfortunately, before the sacking of Marco Silva, we did see a lot of that ourselves. Hence why we changed manager, but you guys stuck, which is quite interesting. And I think we've been discussing the race for the top 4. We've been very fixated on that so far in this show, but let's not forget there's another way you could get in the Champions League. And what do you fancy your chances of winning the Europa League?
Well, I'll say this at the time of recording, we're still in it, just in case someone's watching this.
Yeah.
And Bruges have beaten us and like, what are these two on about? Listen, in 2017 when we won it, it was a fantastic night. I was over there in Stockholm. It was a few days. It was for different reasons as well. Obviously, it got us into Europe. It was completely the set. We'd never won that trophy, and it came a couple of days after the terror attack here in Manchester. So everyone was obviously feeling down and low, and it gave the city a little bit of a lift. It's the only time I've ever had Manchester City fans wishing me good luck ahead of a game. But at the end of that game, I was like, you know what? I don't ever want to see this competition again. And 3 years later, we're back in it. It is a way into the Champions League. And I've said all along, I think that if Ole wants to keep his job, I think the Champions League football is the only way that's going to happen. I think he could keep it to the end of the season, but if we're not in the Champions League, I think he may struggle to keep his job. But if we win the Europa, obviously we get into the Champions League. It's a bit of silverware. Happy days. I'd take it. I'd rather us get into the top 4, because I think if you get into the top 4, that means you're winning week in, week out. And the league is your bread and butter. That's the games you go to each week. You have Europa League football once every 3 weeks or whatever it is. So you don't want your league form to be terrible where you go in each week and watching rubbish, and then once a month or once every 3 weeks you're seeing a good result. So I don't think we can do what Jose did and just focus on the Europa. But as I said earlier, with the fact we've got players coming back from injury, a few of the youngsters are beginning to shine. Mason Greenwood, of course, is on fire. I think we've got a chance in the Europa. I think we can. I just think we need to be careful. At Bruges away, he rested a lot of players and it backfired massively. We were lucky to get away with a 1-1 draw. But I think if we play a strong team, we can give anyone in that competition a run for the money. And you look at, no disrespect to it, some of the teams, but you're not playing against the sort of the Real Madrids, the Barças, the Juves, or the Cities or the Liverpool. So there's no reason why United can't win it.
There you go. I think obviously we're trying to get into the Europa League, which that's probably what the aim is at this stage. I think, like I say, I think the Champions League maybe has been curtains as far as that's concerned, but we're playing catch up. We're only 5 points behind you guys, though. If you could add one Everton player to the current Man United side, who would you go with?
I was thinking about this because I know you asked me this last time.
That's right, yeah.
And I think one player that, oddly enough, if everyone's fit, he might not even get in our first team, but he'd be such a good option. And he's he'd be the type of player that I'm hoping Ighalo might be, but, it's the joys out. And that's Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He's a good, strong striker. He looks like he knows how to finish as well. He's having a good season. He's only young. And I think he'd be a bit of a different type of player than the likes of Anthony Martial, Marcus Rashford when he's fit, or even Mason Greenwood. So, yeah, if I could have anyone, I'd have him. If we could have got him in January, I'd have been over the moon. I know that was never going to happen. But, yeah, he's having a good season. I think there's a reason that he's obviously a very good player. Whether he continues in that sort of form we've seen remains to be seen. But whenever I've seen him, he's looked like a right handful. He looks like the type of player, the type of striker defenders don't like playing against. And I think at United, if we can, provide him with a service, he'd do a decent job. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing a player like that at United.
Yeah, he's a very archetypal Everton striker, really, in terms of like the big, aggressive run. He puts a lot of players under pressure. I'm not sure whether it doesn't strike me as the type of player I've seen very often at United. He's always had a much more gifted finishes than I'll be honest, he is. He's not the...
Is he not? Sorry, I don't know about his finishing. I just know his goal-scoring record. And
no, yeah.
I know I said he looks like he can finish, but I'm just going off his record. And obviously, I've not watched him as often as you have. But,
in fairness, I think the service into him has been a lot better lately, so he has been getting a few more, but he still needs to improve his finishing.
I think, did he miss, was it a header at the end of the Arsenal game? If I remember it.
He did.
Sorry, now you've just flagged that up. It's just reminding me, I think he should have done better there. But how old is he, 22?
He's still only 22. He'll be 23 later this year, I think, so.
Yeah, so people sort of now, they think if by the age of 22, if you're not banging in 20 a season, you're rubbish. But a lot of strikers, we've seen it with I'm not saying he's going to hit those numbers, but the likes of Kane, the likes of, even going back further, Ian Wright, Alan Shearer, when they hit sort of 22, 23 was their breakout year. So you never know. We've seen it with Marcus Rashford this season. He's really kicked on, and maybe he can do that for you next season.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed. Going into the actual game this weekend, what sort of lineup do you reckon Ole is going to go with? What sort of personnel is he going to pick? Sort of formations?
He seems to be favouring the 3 at the back or the 5 at the back, depending on whether we're defending or attacking. He's found a sort of role that Luke Shaw seems to have fitted into quite well. I don't think he's improved as much as everyone's going on about. Everyone's sort of rewriting it now and saying, "Oh, he's amazing." I don't buy into that. I think he's done okay. I still think he can do better. But he's been playing on the left-hand side of a back 3, alongside Lindelof and Maguire. Eric Bailly's come in when he's fit, but again, he came in against Chelsea and then he got injured again. So I think Ole might stick with a back 3 and then have wing-backs in Brandon Williams and Aaron Wan-Bissaka, because that's a formation that he seems to favour, and it's been doing all right recently as well.
That's an interesting one. So what sort of personnel further forward, who's in the midfield and attack?
As I said before, we've got options in midfield. I think Bruno obviously has to start, and he will. I think Fred will start. The only other question is, would it be Matic or McTominay? If McTominay's fit enough, he'll probably get the nod over Matic. So I'm guessing in midfield you'd have Fred, McTominay with Bruno in front of them, and that obviously leaves you two sort of attackers.
Martial will play. Yeah,
Martial obviously. Dan James looks a little bit off the pace. Mason Greenwood came in and did a really good job again. Well, it's weird, he didn't do a good job, but he got a goal. And this is what Mason Greenwood can do. He's one of those players that he'll do almost nothing for 60-odd minutes and then just score an absolute worlder. And I love that about him, because he's only young.
Yeah, well, he's done that to us in the last game, didn't he? I think he scored your goal against us. And
yeah,
not much else was going on, but he got a really good goal against us.
Against Watford, I think his number was up. I think they were ready to sub him. I don't know if he saw it and just thought, oh, I need to get on the score sheet, but he just picked up the ball in his own half, ran with it, did a 1-2 and scored a bit of a banger. So, yeah, I think he might get the nod alongside Martial.
Yeah, those two will be a handful for our defence. I think, like, if you watch the Everton Arsenal game the other day, it was we attacked really well. We can trouble your defenders, but you'll trouble our defenders. Our defence is a bit shambolic at times, so that's what's going to hold us back, I think, at the moment. So, of course, what sort of score prediction are you going to go with?
Even though we're playing well, I think it is going to be difficult. You are doing well under Ancelotti despite the result at the Emirates. And as you mentioned, Goodison is a difficult ground for other teams to go to. So I'm going to go with a 1-1. Sorry to be boring, but I think...
An anti-climax, did you think it's going to be?
Yeah, and I think in a way, I don't think a 1-1 is terrible for either team. I think for us, it's like, okay, we've not been beaten. It's difficult ground. We're sort of, we're on a decent run in the Premier League. And for you guys, it's not, the end of the world if you don't beat Manchester United at home. So I don't know. I could see that maybe happening. I hope I'm wrong. I hope United turn up and we build on the results against Watford and Chelsea. But yeah, I just got a feeling it might be one of those days.
I'm gonna go with. I think we could get the win. I think, like I say, we attack well. We don't defend well. I'm hoping it's a reverse of last weekend's result and we win 3-2.
Well, I hope you're wrong, obviously, because that'll not win that out of ourselves. But let's just hope it's as well. We see some decent football because as you mentioned earlier, the one at Old Trafford was pretty drab.
It was pretty awful, of course. I think the highlight of that game was Duncan Ferguson running down the touchline in his shirt in the rain. So
I think the Moise Keane scenario was the highlight.
Oh, I forgot all about that.
Yeah, mate. Everyone, I stood in the Stretford end, and everyone was like, because I remember saying to me, mate, I was like, has he not just come on? And he was like, I think so. I'm sure he's just come on. And then it was like, he walked straight off, didn't he? And everyone was like, what's going on there? He didn't look like he took a knock. There was a bit of controversy there, and I think that because the game had so few talking points, it got amplified. And then he did it again. It made me laugh because Ferguson did it again a week later, didn't he?
I saw it. Sent Keane on for the fella he hooked off. So it was very interesting. I think.
Yeah.
Looking back, I think the reason he was hooked off, I think he wasn't tracking back, and I think that's why Greenwood scored in the end.
Right, okay, fair. But he's had a bit of a lot of intrigue. One that was like, oh, is something going on here or what? But yeah, Ferguson doesn't mess about like his namesake.
He's had a bit of a resurgence, since that, and he has got his first goal since, and he's sort of grown into the team. He's still playing from the bench, but I think that's because the two strikers we've got are doing quite well at the moment. So
I said it to you last time, didn't I? I don't want him to start scoring at the weekend, but I do hope it works out for Keane. I feel for him. He had a bit of a tough time of it over in Italy with some of the racism and other stuff he's had to deal with. He's only a young lad. He got a bit of stick off pundits over here as soon as was asking all sorts of silly questions about him. And, I like to see it work out for him, just hopefully not this week.
Well, I obviously beg to differ, and I think, I agree with you on that, though. I think he seems to be a really nice fella as well, so fingers crossed he can kick on and score a hat-trick.
Mate, I tell you what, this will be getting clips up if he does.
Right, there we go. We always end on a light-hearted note, and in this sense, a completely and utterly irrelevant question. Jay might remember earlier this season, we asked you what your favourite film was. Jay couldn't make his mind up between Dead Man's Shoes and The Big Lebowski.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Yeah. Two great films in their own right. I think we can agree.
Very different, but yeah, two of my favourites, yeah.
This time, we're going to go with a short and quite literally sweet one. Pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
No, absolutely not. What's going on there? That's terrible stuff, like. Seriously.
I've been making some enemies with that one.
No. Whoever thought of that needs to take a good long look at himself. And I can't believe people have bought into it. That's the sort of thing you shrug off and go, that's a daft idea. But not only has it become a thing, it's got a name on it, Hawaiian. I'm sure they don't do that in Hawaii.
Well, I'm going to go to Hawaii and find out.
Someone
will pay for me.
Hey, if that mob down the road win the league, well, when they win the league, I might join you in Hawaii.
Well, exactly. I think we can both agree on that. I'm just looking for the quickest flight out.
Yeah, I think we said that last time, didn't we? We'll be sharing the same flight. Yeah, 100%.
Or dig in the same bunker. Either way, whatever's cheapest. But that's all we got time for today. All eyes are now on the game, of course. It's a 2:00 kickoff on Sunday afternoon. It's on the telly Be sure to check out all our great content in the build-up and beyond, and get over to Full Time Devils if you want to see some more brilliant content there and catch a bit more of Jay. Give them a follow on Twitter, and also, in particular, give Jay a follow on Twitter as well while you're at it. His Twitter handle is RFFH. It's below him on the screen as we speak, so get following Jay. As always, guys, give this video a like, a comment, and give the channel a subscribe. And all that's left to say is thanks again, Jay, for coming on the show, second time round. And
always a pleasure, mate. Really enjoy it, James. Good chatting to you, mate. Good stuff. Keep up the good work as well. Doing good stuff on your channel, mate.
Love it. Same goes for you, mate. And of course, thank you guys for tuning in again and watching on the Toffee Blues.